The American Claimant by Mark Twain, Chapter 9. The Earl and Washington started on the sorrowful errand, talking as they walked. "And, as usual—" "What, Colonel?" "7 of them in that hotel. Actresses, and all burnt out, of course." "Any of them burnt up?" "Oh, no, they escaped. They always do. But there's never a one of them that knows enough to fetch out her jewelry with her." "That's strange." "Strange. It's the most unaccountable thing in the world. Experience teaches them nothing. They can't seem to learn anything except out of a book. In some cases there's manifestly a fatality about it. For instance, take what's her name, that plays those sensational thunder and lightning parts. She's got a perfectly immense reputation. Draws like a dog-fight, and it all came from getting burned out in hotels." "Why, how could that give her a reputation as an actress?" "It didn't. It only made her name familiar. People want to see her play because her name is familiar, but they don't know what made it familiar because they don't remember. First she was at the bottom of the ladder, and absolutely obscure. Wages $13 a week, and find her own pads." "Pads?" "Yes, things to fat up her spindles with, so as to be plump and attractive. Well, she got burnt out in a hotel, and lost $30,000 worth of diamonds." "She? Where'd she get them?" "Goodness knows. Given to her, no doubt, by spoony young flats and sappy old bald-heads in the front row. All the papers were full of it. She struck for higher pay and got it. Well, she got burnt out again and lost all her diamonds, and it gave her such a lift that she went starring." "Well, if hotel fires are all she's got to depend on to keep up her name, it's a pretty precarious kind of a reputation, I should think." "Not with her. No, anything but that, because she's so lucky. Born lucky, I reckon. Every time there's a hotel fire she's in it. She's always there, and if she can't be there herself, her diamonds are. Now you can't make anything out of that but just sheer luck." "I never heard of such a thing. She must have lost quarts of diamonds."
"Quarts? She's lost bushels of them. It's got so that the hotels are superstitious about her. They won't let her in. They think there will be a fire. And besides, if she's there it cancels the insurance. She's been waning a little lately, but this fire will set her up. She lost $60,000 worth last night."
"I think she's a fool. If I had $60,000 worth of diamonds I wouldn't trust them in a hotel."
"I wouldn't either. But you can't teach an actress that. This one's been burnt out 35 times, and yet if there's a hotel fire in San Francisco tonight, she's got to bleed again, you mark my words. Perfect ass. They say she's got diamonds in every hotel in the country."
When they arrived at the scene of the fire, the poor old Earl took one glimpse at the melancholy morgue and turned away his face overcome by the spectacle. He said,
"It is too true, Hawkins. Recognition is impossible. Not one of the 5 could be identified by its nearest friend. You make the selection. I can't bear it."
"Which one had I better—"
"Oh, take any of them. Pick out the best one."
However, the officers assured the Earl, for they knew him, everybody in Washington knew him, that the position in which these bodies were found made it impossible that any one of them could be that of his noble young kinsman. They pointed out the spot where, if the newspaper account was correct, he must have sunk down to destruction, and at a wide distance from this spot they showed him where the young man must have gone down in case he was suffocated in his room, and they showed still a third place, quite remote, where he might possibly have found his death if perchance he tried to escape by the side exit toward the rear. The old colonel brushed away a tear and said to Hawkins,
"As it turns out, there was something prophetic in my fears. Yes, it's a matter of ashes. Will you kindly step to a grocery and fetch a couple more baskets?"
Reverently they got a basket of ashes from each of those now hallowed spots, and carried them home to consult as to the best manner of forwarding them to England, and also to give them an opportunity to lie in state, a mark of respect which the colonel deemed obligatory, considering the high rank of the deceased. They set the baskets on the table in what was formerly the library, drawing-room, and workshop, now the hall of audience, and went upstairs to the lumber-room to see if they could find a British flag to use as a part of the outfit proper to the lying in state. A moment later Lady Rossmore came in from the street and caught sight of the baskets just as old Ginny crossed her field of vision. She quite lost her patience and said, "Well, what will you do next? What in the world possessed you to clutter up the parlor table with these baskets of ashes?" "Ashes?" And she came to look. She put up her hands in pathetic astonishment. "Well, I never see the like!" "Didn't you do it?" "Who, me? Glad to goodness, it's the first time I sot eyes on 'em, Miss Polly. That's Dan'l. That old moke is losing his mind." But it wasn't Dan'l, for he was called and denied it. "There ain't no way to explain that. When it's one o' these your common occurrences, a body can reckon maybe the cat—" "Oh!" and a shudder shook Lady Rossmore to her foundations. "I see it all. Keep away from them. They're his." "His, m'lady?" "Yes, your young Marcellus from England that's burned up." She was alone with the ashes, alone before she could take half a breath. Then she went after Mulberry Sellers, proposing to make short work of his program, whatever it might be. "For," said she, "when his sentimentals are up, he's a numbskull, and there's no knowing what extravagance he'll contrive if you let him alone." She found him. He had found the flag and was bringing it. When she heard that his idea was to have the remains lie in state and invite the government and the public, she broke it up. She said, "Your intentions are all right, they always are. You want to do honor to the remains, and surely nobody can find any fault with that, for he was your kin. But you are going the wrong way about it, and you will see it yourself if you stop and think. You can't file around a basket of ashes trying to look sorry for it and make a sight that is really solemn, because the solemner it is, the more it isn't. Anybody can see that. It would be so with one basket, it would be 3 times so with 3. Well, it stands to reason that if it wouldn't be solemn with one mourner, it wouldn't be with a procession, and there would be 5,000 people here. I don't know, but it would be pretty near ridiculous. I think it would. No, Mulberry, they can't lie in state. It would be a mistake. Give that up and think of something else." So he gave it up, and not reluctantly, when he had thought it over and realized how right her instinct was. He concluded to merely sit up with the remains, just himself and Hawkins. Even this seemed a doubtful attention to his wife, but she offered no objection, for it was plain that he had a quite honest and simple-hearted desire to do the friendly and honorable thing by these forlorn poor relics, which could command no hospitality in this far-off land of strangers but his. He draped the flag about the baskets, put some crape on the door-knob, and said with satisfaction,
"There. He is as comfortable now as we can make him in the circumstances. Except, yes, we must strain a point there. One must do as one would wish to be done by. He must have it."
"Have what, dear?"
"Hatchment."
The wife felt that the house front was standing about all it could well stand in that way. The prospect of another stunning decoration of that nature distressed her, and she wished the thing had not occurred to him. She said, hesitatingly, "But I thought such an honor as that wasn't allowed to any but very, very near relations, who—"
"Right. You are quite right, my lady, perfectly right. But there aren't any nearer relatives than relatives by usurpation. We cannot avoid it. We are slaves of aristocratic custom and must submit."
The hatchments were unnecessarily generous, each being as large as a blanket, and they were unnecessarily volcanic, too, as to variety and violence of color, but they pleased the Earl's barbaric eye, and they satisfied his taste for symmetry and completeness, too, for they left no waste-room to speak of on the house-front. Lady Rossmore and her daughter assisted at the sitting up till near midnight, and helped the gentleman to consider what ought to be done next with the remains. Rossmore thought they ought to be sent home with a committee and resolutions at once, but the wife was doubtful. She said, "Would you send all of the baskets?"
"Oh, yes, all."
"All at once?"
"To his father? Oh, no, by no means. Think of the shock. No, one at a time. Break it to him by degrees."
"Would that have that effect, father?"
"Yes, my daughter. Remember, you are young and elastic, but he is old. To send him the whole at once might well be more than he could bear. But mitigated, one basket at a time, with restful intervals between, he would be used to it by the time he got all of him. And sending him in 3 ships is safer anyway, on account of wrecks and storms."
"I don't like the idea, father. If I were his father, it would be dreadful to have him coming in that—
"On the installment plan?"
suggested Hawkins, gravely, and proud of being able to help. "Yes, dreadful to have him coming in that incoherent way. There would be the strain of suspense upon me all the time, to have so depressing a thing as a funeral impending, delayed, waiting, unaccomplished."
"Oh, no, my child," said the Earl reassuringly. "There would be nothing of that kind. So old a gentleman could not endure a long-drawn suspense like that. There will be 3 funerals."
Lady Rossmore looked up surprised, and said, "How is that going to make it easier for him? It's a total mistake, to my mind. He ought to be buried all at once, I'm sure of it." "I should think so, too," said Hawkins. "And certainly I should," said the daughter.
"You're all wrong," said the Earl. "You will see it yourselves, if you think. Only one of these baskets has got him in it."
"Very well, then," said Lady Rossmore. "The thing is perfectly simple. Bury that one." "Certainly," said Lady Gwendolen.
"But it is not simple," said the Earl, "because we do not know which basket he is in. We know he is in one of them, but that is all we do know. You see now, I reckon, that I was right. It takes 3 funerals. There is no other way."
"And 3 graves, and 3 monuments, and 3 inscriptions?" asked the daughter.
"Well, yes, to do it right. That is what I should do."
"It could not be done so, father. Each of the inscriptions would give the same name and the same facts, and say he was under each and all of these monuments, and that would not answer at all." The Earl nestled uncomfortably in his chair.
"No," he said, "that is an objection. That is a serious objection. I see no way out."
There was a general silence for a while. Then Hawkins said, "It seems to me that if we mixed the 3 ramifications together—" The Earl grasped him by the hand and shook it gratefully.
"It solves the whole problem," he said.
"1 ship, 1 funeral, 1 grave, 1 monument. It is admirably conceived."
"It does you honor, Major Hawkins. It has relieved me of a most painful embarrassment and distress, and it will save that poor stricken old father much suffering. Yes, he shall go over in 1 basket."
"When?" asked the wife.
"Tomorrow, immediately, of course."
"I would wait, Mulberry."
"Wait? Why?"
"You don't want to break that childless old man's heart."
"God knows I don't."
"Then wait till he sends for his son's remains. If you do that, you will never have to give him the last and sharpest pain a parent can know. I mean the certainty that his son is dead. For he will never send."
"Why won't he?"
"Because to send, and find out the truth, would rob him of the one precious thing left him, the uncertainty, the dim hope that maybe, after all, his boy escaped, and he will see him again some day."
"Why, Polly, he'll know by the papers that he was burnt up."
"He won't let himself believe the papers. He'll argue against anything and everything that proves his son is dead, and he will keep that up and live on it, and on nothing else, till he dies. But if the remains should actually come, and be put before that poor old dim-hoping soul—"
"Oh, my God, they never shall! Polly, you've saved me from a crime, and I'll bless you for it always. Now we know what to do. We'll place them reverently away, and he shall never know.
End of chapter 9.